The first thing I noticed when my stepsister, Celeste, entered the winter charity gala at the Grand Meridian Hotel wasn't her silver dress or the cameras flashing around her, but the antique emerald bracelet wrapped around her wrist, a piece I had inherited from my grandmother and believed had vanished from my private dressing room nearly a month earlier. I had spent weeks searching every drawer and suitcase, questioning the staff, checking old storage boxes, and even wondering whether I had somehow misplaced it myself, because my husband, Adrian, had repeatedly told me that I was becoming paranoid over a piece of jewelry that could easily have been lost. Celeste spotted me staring and gave me the kind of smile that looked innocent from across a crowded room, before walking directly toward Adrian as if she had been waiting for me to notice the bracelet all evening. "You like it?" she asked casually, lifting her wrist beneath the chandelier, and before I could answer, Adrian laughed and said, "I thought it suited her better than it ever suited you." A sentence that landed with such unexpected cruelty that for a moment I couldn't hear the orchestra playing behind us. I stepped closer and quietly asked Celeste where she had gotten it, but Adrian immediately moved between us and warned me not to create a scene at his company's most important annual event, where investors, executives, and influential guests had gathered to celebrate the merger he had spent 2 years arranging. "It's just jewelry, Mara," he whispered sharply, while Celeste lowered her eyes and pretended to be uncomfortable, yet I noticed something neither of them expected me to notice. The bracelet's tiny engraved initials, ER, were still visible beneath the clasp, exactly where my grandmother had insisted they be placed decades earlier. Instead of reaching for it, I stepped away and watched them from a distance, remembering how often I had been told to forgive Celeste when she borrowed my clothes without asking, how I had been expected to remain quiet when she damaged things, and how every disagreement somehow ended with me being accused of jealousy. Adrian had always defended her with the same tired explanation, that Celeste had struggled more than I had, and that being the bigger person meant overlooking small betrayals. But standing beneath those enormous crystal chandeliers, I suddenly realized that what everyone had called my patience had actually been years of teaching people that they could cross my boundaries without consequences. I slipped into an empty corridor and called the one person I knew would not dismiss what I was saying, my grandmother's estate attorney, Victor Hale, who had handled the inheritance paperwork when the bracelet became legally mine. "Victor, I found it," I said, keeping my voice steady, and after a long silence he asked, "Where is it now?" Before I told him exactly where I was, who was wearing it, and why I was certain it was the same bracelet that had been listed in the estate inventory. Victor did not tell me to confront anyone or demand the bracelet back, but instead asked me to wait because he had discovered something strange while reviewing the estate records earlier that week. Someone had recently requested a certified copy of the inheritance documents using information connected to Adrian's office, despite the fact that neither Adrian nor Celeste had any legal reason to access those files. "Do not touch the bracelet," Victor instructed, "and don't warn them that you know anything," because he believed the missing paperwork, the stolen jewelry, and the sudden appearance of the bracelet at the gala might be connected. 10 minutes later, Victor arrived with a security consultant and the director of the hotel's private event security, and they quietly asked Adrian to step into a conference room without explaining why. While I remained in the ballroom watching Celeste laugh nervously beside the champagne table. The security consultant then showed me footage from 3 weeks earlier, revealing a person entering the restricted residential floor of our apartment building, using an access card registered to Adrian. And although the face was partially obscured, the timestamp matched the evening I had discovered that my locked jewelry drawer was open. When Adrian finally returned, the confidence had disappeared from his face, and Victor placed a folder on the table containing the estate inventory, photographs of the bracelet, purchase documentation from decades earlier, and a report showing that Adrian's office assistant had requested information about the bracelet only days before it disappeared. "You told your wife she was imagining things," Victor said calmly, "but the records suggest someone deliberately removed property belonging to her and then attempted to establish a false story about how it was acquired. And for the first time that night, Adrian had absolutely nothing to say. Celeste began crying and insisted that Adrian had told her the bracelet was a family gift he wanted her to wear, while Adrian claimed he had only borrowed it because he believed Mara would eventually agree to give it to her. But their explanations collapsed when Victor produced a message in which Adrian had instructed his assistant to retrieve the bracelet and prepare the inheritance paperwork so Celeste could have something meaningful before the gala. I looked at both of them and felt no satisfaction at all, because the truth was far more painful than the anger I had expected to feel. The bracelet had not been taken because it was beautiful, but because Adrian had believed he could rewrite my reality and make everyone else accept his version. The bracelet was returned to me that night, but I didn't put it back on my wrist. Instead, I carried it home in a small evidence envelope, placed it inside the old wooden box my grandmother had given me, and began the much harder process of separating myself from the people who had spent years convincing me that protecting my own boundaries was selfish. Adrian eventually faced an internal investigation at his company, and the marriage ended quietly. Celeste stopped contacting me, and although I never received the apology I once thought I needed, I finally understood that the real inheritance my grandmother had left me was not an emerald bracelet, but the courage to trust my own memory, my own judgment, and my own voice. So please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.